Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Today we are talking chronographs. What is your perfect chronograph? If money was tight, what would you pick? And if money was no object, what would you pick? Leave me a comment, let me know. At the affordable end, Citizen's Navihawk and Seiko's Speedtimer both jump out, as does of course the Seagull 1963 and the Militado military chronograph. At the top end there are a slew of classics to choose from, including Speedtimer, Navitimer, El Primero, and of course the daddy of them all, the Rolex Daytona. Today I have a watch on my wrist that's priced somewhere in between all of those, but is arguably just as capable, if not more capable, and all-rounder than any of the watches I just showed you, including that Daytona. Does that make it the perfect chronograph then? We shall see. It is of course the Sinn 144. There was a clue on the thumbnail. I've only looked at a couple of Sinns over the years, but I've been really impressed with what I've seen. Made in Germany with off-the-shelf movements, but beautifully constructed, very, very well considered. I would call them brutally handsome and incredibly legible and practical as a consequence. And this 144 is no different to the others. Now, I didn't just buy this one. It is kindly on loan to the channel by none other than Mr. P, my good friend and business partner at Erebus. He has consolidated his collection over the last couple of years. He has sold an awful lot of affordable pieces and bought a significantly less number of slightly less affordable ones. And he picked this one up almost exactly 12 months ago. Thank you, Mr. P. Let's dig a little deeper and see if it is indeed the perfect chronograph. Now, to my mind anyway, packaging is almost neither here nor there, and the packaging on this one is pretty basic for the money being charged. I will of course talk about the money being charged a bit later on, don't you worry about that. Kind of basic black cardboard box, basic flip top cube, instruction manual in both English and German of course, and a warranty card. It's a 2-year warranty by the way, which is, well, perhaps a little disappointing. There is nothing disappointing about the way this watch looks or its set of dimensions. And unlike some of the other classic chronos we looked at earlier on, the 144 has a decidedly 1970s look to it and an almost monochrome minimalism that this watch and this brand does so well. We had a good look at several Sinns when we designed our Erebus Origin for exactly that reason. These are 41mm in diameter, 14.5mm thick, have a lug-to-lug of 44.5, a lug width of 20, and as sized for me with my 7-inch wrist, this one weighs in at a chunky 175 grams. Crystal is flat sapphire with anti-reflective undercoating, water resistance is 200 meters with the aid of a screw-down crown, and the movement, well, the movement is a Concepto C99001. Jody, what the f*** is a Concepto C99001? Well, do not worry, it is a Swiss-made clone of the Valjoux 7750. Now, if that sounds a bit frightening, it really shouldn't be. The Sellita SW500 is also just another Swiss-made clone of the Valjoux 7750. Don't forget, it looks almost identical to the Valjoux. It's got a nice bit of decoration on several plates and on the rotor. 25 joules, hacking and hand winding, 4 Hz beat rate, a 48-hour power reserve, and a 12-hour chronograph function. This really is a classic layout, isn't it? Day-date complication at 3, small second indicator at 9, 30-minute chronograph dial at 12, and 12-hour chronograph register down there at 6. The big orange hand in the middle is of course the chronograph hand. Just like the Valjoux and its derivatives, the chronograph action is really lovely. It's kind of snappy and tactile and a little bit noisy, just how you like it. And just like the Valjoux, you do not want to change the date on this one between the hours of 9 PM and 3 AM as the movement really struggles to do it the day and date wheels really struggle with the shift. I think the case on these looks fabulous. Just stainless steel in this instance, but bead blasted to give it this kind of satin matte finish. It's definitely chunky though as a result of a fairly tall movement, but it's not too bad on your wrist, as you'll see in just a second. The fixed bezel is part of the case rather than a separate piece, and the bevel edge flat sapphire fits into that bezel beautifully. The screw-down crown is signed and it's just the right size at 5.8mm. It manages to offer plenty of grip but it's still unobtrusive. Now, some of the 144s are tegamented, Zinn's own hardness treatment, but this particular one is not. The bracelet is Zinn's signature H-Link. It really is synonymous with the brand now, but if you don't like bracelets, then the watch is available on leather instead. There's a nice taper to this one and a very well manufactured clasp. Double pushers, Zinn brand name etched in their portrait style, and 4 different positions of micro adjustment built in. Let's actually take a minute to look at this clasp because the engineering is lovely. It's every bit as solid as the rest of the watch, but there is kind of one negative, one downside. The more of those micro adjust positions you avail yourself of, the more this dedicated long end link is revealed. It looks okay in the first position, kind of okay in the second position, but by the time it's all the way out, it's beginning to look just a little bit odd. Not a huge negative, more a quirk of the design. It's a pretty heavy watch at 175 grams. The chunky clasp balances out the chunky case nicely though. But let's get back to ogling the dial and the handset. Ooh, I just love the way this one looks. It's a 70s style Pilot chronograph. There's a tachymeter scale on an inner chapter ring. Simple fence post hands. They're not huge, but because of the color contrast, they don't need to be. It's mostly black and white with just a touch of delicious lume coloration on the hands and the indices, and a vibrant orange/red spine running all the way from 12 to 6. There's a color matched day-date complication with a simple printed frame, the brand name above that frame, and automatic with German spelling beneath it. And of course, it's made in Germany, so those words are printed either side of the truncated index at 6. This may or may not be the perfect chronograph, but to my eye anyway, the dial and the hands really don't get a lot better than this. On wrist then. Look, 41mm isn't big, but 175 grams kind of is. So it doesn't look particularly large or impactful on wrist, but you damn well know it's there because of the weight, and I have been wearing this one rather tight as a consequence of that weight. Like I said though, the chunky clasp does go some way to balancing out this chunky case, and you do have those 4 micro adjust positions on the fly in order to get the right fit for you personally. It looks pretty awesome though, doesn't it? There are such a breadth of different chronograph styles, even within the subgenre of Pilot's chronographs. This is definitely one of my favorite styles. You can see it elsewhere by the likes of Porsche Design. Porsche Design, by the way, will cost you about 3 times what this one does. So the Zinn may not be a dollar dazzler today, but it's actually pretty good value for money when you look at it in the broader context. Legibility indoors and outdoors is really pretty good thanks to some nice proportions and the chosen colour, plus Zinn's AR undercoating is always decent. Again, much like the tegamenting though, sometimes they use a double-sided AR on their watches, but they have chosen not to do so in this case. Moans and niggles. Is this the perfect chronograph? Well, in the company of the chronographs mentioned at the beginning of the video, the 144 doesn't have the history, the heritage, or the brand identity of that lot. But it is, however, a lot cheaper than any of that lot. But that doesn't mean to say it's cheap. These are just under 5,000 Aussie on a bracelet from the official Zinn retailer here in Australia. Now, if I were tempted to buy one though, I'd be tempted to buy one used. There are plenty in great shape on Chrono24 starting at 3,000 Australian dollars. Nowhere near Daytona levels, but still not an insignificant sum I appreciate. And for that not insignificant sum, I think the lume could be a little bit better. There is of course that touch of Fotina on the hands and indices to give them the 70s look during the day. I think that compromises the watch a little bit during the night. Plus you don't get any lume on the sub-registers, you're limited to the indices and the 2 main hands, and when I turn the speed up you can see the indices followed by the 2 main hands fade all too quickly. And as much as the Concepto is a well-regarded clone of the 7750, it would be nicer to have had an actual 7750 instead. And yeah, I've mentioned it a couple of times, 175 grams is pretty heavy for a 41mm chrono. It's not the bracelet, those links seem to be pretty standard. There's definitely a bit of meat in the clasp, but that's there to balance out the undoubted meat in that chunky case. That's where most of the weight is today. But honestly, I can cope with all of that. I cannot think of another chronograph at this price point I would rather own than the Sinn 144, and I can think of a bunch of chronos more expensive than this that I wouldn't pick instead of it. The simple colour palette, the simple hands, the bead blasted case, all combine to give the 144 a slightly under the radar effect. And personally, I prefer watches that don't feel the need to shout about their brand or their specifications. Watches that are just built to do a job and built to do that job for a long, long time. And the 144 gives the impression of exactly that type of watch. So there you have it, definitely not perfect, but the third Sinn I've reviewed and the third Sinn I've really enjoyed. While you're here, why not check out the other two? Thanks for watching, and a younger Jody will see you again over there.